Chase Elliott and Hendrick Motorsports holds off Denny Hamlin and the Toyotas to pick up his second win of the NASCAR Cup Series season. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Talkin NASCAR. I'm your host, Andrew. Hope you've had a great weekend up to this point, and thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Talkin NASCAR. We had an interesting race today at Texas Motor Speedway. Very interesting one here today. The Wurth 400 presented by Liqui Moly. I don't know what the Liqui Moly is. That's just the title sponsor, I guess. So I'm gonna call it the Wurth 400. But anyways, interesting race to recap here today. Just got back from a little 3-day vacation or 3-day trip with my family. So I had a lot of fun there. Took some good time off. Got a good chance to rest and relax, I would say. So I'm ready to get back to it though on this show, and a lot of good things are yet to come for it. We got Watkins Glen next weekend. I got some other plans with my friend Miles over at Talking Sports with Miles and Andrew. So stay tuned for more episodes over on that show because we got a lot of content to put out over there. So stay tuned for more if you're interested. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump into this episode of Talkin NASCAR, episode 111 to be exact. Like I already mentioned at the top of the show today, Chase Elliott and his number 9 team with Hendrick Motorsports picked up the second win of the season, their second win of the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series season. Another good race for Chase Elliott on the mile-and-a-half tracks. His first win of the year came back at the short track, the paperclip of Martinsville, and was able to hold off Denny Hamlin in that race as well. And once again, it was Chase Elliott having to hold off Denny Hamlin and that 11 team for Joe Gibbs Racing in that number 11 car, who had a great car, great race today. And I thought at one point in this race that Denny Hamlin was going to be walking away with another victory here this weekend, picking up his second win of the season over guys like Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Corey Heim, who was even up front a good amount of today as well. But it wasn't Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott was not the guy up at the front most of the day. It was, for the most part, Denny Hamlin. Christopher Bell was also up there as well. You also saw Kyle Larson maybe jump into the conversation a little bit. Tyler Reddick, Carson Hocevar led the way from the pole, but faded quickly. Daniel Suarez was also up there towards the front. Excuse me. You also had Chase Briscoe in the mix as well. I just mentioned Corey Heim. Ty Gibbs was also making a great effort to get to the front as well. So Chase Elliott was the guy that you wouldn't really see coming in this race, but he and the number 9 team, Alan Gustafson, his veteran crew chief, has been in the sport for a very long time. They know how to grind out races and play the long game when it comes to racing in the NASCAR Cup Series, and that's how they win races now in the Cup Series. They would start, mid-pack, maybe 15th, 14th, mid-15s area, but they gradually move forward. They get some stage points in stage 1, keep moving forward into stage 2, and then they are at the front at the end of these races and are able to contend once again. Chase Elliott doesn't have, the incredible raw pace of a guy like Kyle Larson or Carson Hocevar. He's just smooth, calm, and consistent, and is able to slowly work his way forward very, very methodically and very, very consistently every single week. That is what you're going to see from Chase Elliott. And again, this week was no exceptions to this one as well. In stage 1, I mean, he worked forward. He was up to 8th place after starting in 14th. Stage 2, he had worked his way all the way up to the front, which you haven't seen very much out of Chase Elliott, and actually won stage 2 and was able to hold on to the lead for pretty much the rest of the race. And he only lost lead during pit cycles, and for the most part, it was Corey Heim that was leading those laps, not Denny Hamlin or Tyler Reddick as well. But Chase Elliott usually would be the one that would cycle back to the lead. We did get a very interesting little mix in stage 2. At the beginning of stage 2, we had just a string of cautions. I believe it was Ty Gibbs spinning out in one of them, causing to go under yellow. Todd Gilliland spun coming off turn 4, collected Christopher Bell as well under a pit stop cycle. There was just a lot of calamity on pit road. Kyle Larson got into Chase Briscoe, and Briscoe, who was having a good day, had some damage to come on to the right front of that car, and that kind of hindered his progress forward wasn't really the same car, damaged the aerodynamics of that number 19 Toyota. And then we also saw Ryan Preece get into Ty Gibbs a little bit later on. Gibbs ended up getting a lot of damage. Kyle Larson ended up spinning out, coming, I believe, at the end of stage two, maybe beginning of stage three. I can't exactly remember. But Larson had some issues today as well. And then we also saw Corey Heim spin out late in the going in this one after he came down for a green flag pit stop cycle after he ran out of fuel, took two tires, possibly blew a left rear tire in turns three and four, got some major damage to the rear end of his car, and that actually would set up our overtime finish that Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott were also able to line up. Hamlin and Elliott decided to stay out. Tyler Reddick and several others decided to pit. However, Reddick would be starting a little bit deeper in the field towards the back half of the top 10, but he would be the first driver on two tires. But you were not I was just not sure if Reddick was gonna have enough time to get up to the front and actually contend for the victory. Because I just thought that, with how Texas Motor Speedway is, it's a very, narrow groove track. There's really only one good groove. Now it's kind of like the middle lane, the bottom lane kind of difficult to pass on that bottom lane, the top lane, especially in turns one and two, where the lanes where you want to be in. Turns three and four, you really want it to be on the bottom. The higher you went up in turns three and four, the more treacherous it was. It's just a difficult track to drive. Little to no grip in some parts of the track. A lot of bumps in the turns because of the tunnels at Texas Motor Speedway. Just a very treacherous track overall. So it was very difficult to drive, very difficult to pass. So I was just not sure if Reddick taking those four tires was going to be able to work his way up through the pack quick enough. He wound up actually finishing in fourth, so he got close. I bet if Reddick did have maybe another lap, he could have possibly gotten up to the front. But on that overtime restart, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin both had really good starts, but Chase Elliott was able to power to the front off turn two. He chose the bottom lane, was able to push kind of Hamlin up out of the groove a little bit. He had the dominant line, was able to sail it off into turn one a little bit more. Was able to make it stick as well. And so Chase Elliott took the lead on that restart and never really gave it up. We did see another crash coming to the white flag. Kyle Busch actually got into the back of John Hunter Nemechek, sent him spinning into turn three and four. Nemechek was able to back his way on the apron to pit road out of harm's way. But Kyle Busch was so close to having a good race and a good finish. Ends up finishing in 20th. Ruins a good day. But Busch and Nemechek kind of got into it on the backstretch after the initial overtime restart. And Busch tried to clear Nemechek, wasn't clear. Busch hit the outside wall. Busch kind of just, got back at John Hunter Nemechek, kind of wrecked him, I would say. Wasn't very happy. It'd been like a bit of a frustrating day for Kyle Busch, frustrating season for him overall this year, and kind of took it out there on John Hunter, who was having a pretty solid day up until that point when Kyle Busch just straight up sent him into the outside wall. So tough break for John Hunter Nemechek, and just tough day for Busch. I mean, just that's how you ruin a day if you're Kyle Busch. I don't know what else to say about it there. He kind of did it to himself. He kind of gave himself a bad day. But regardless, no caution. Thankfully, no restart, no race finish under caution, which I applaud NASCAR for. I mean, the leaders already took the white flag, so there wasn't going to be another restart. But I was just worried about the race finishing under yellow, which I never like to see. But in this one, we got to see the race finish under green. Chase Elliott, no one could really touch him. Denny Hamlin was 4/10 of a second behind Chase Elliott when Chase took the checkered flag. So Chase Elliott, he definitely showed that he probably did have the best car today. He had the fastest lap, even though I did think earlier in the race that Hamlin or Christopher Bell or Chase Briscoe or Ty Gibbs, even for that matter, maybe Tyler Reddick, Carson Hocevar, I thought those were the guys that were going to be the ones contending for the win. I thought Chase Elliott, no, was going to be maybe fighting for a top five position, not fighting for the win, but I was pleasantly surprised. So congratulations to Chase Elliott and that number 19 picking up his second win of the season. Let's go ahead and take a look at the top finishers in this one. Hamlin ends up in second. How about Alex Bowman finishing in third place? A really good day for Alex Bowman. Qualified very well. I believe was the top qualifying Hendrick car, who's starting in ninth place. So how about Alex Bowman getting a third place finish? Tyler Reddick took those four tires, ends up in fourth place. Chris Buescher finally gets a top five at Texas, his home track. I think coming into this one, Chris Buescher had never had a top 10 finish at Texas, and he finally breaks that streak here today. Daniel Suarez in sixth place. Early on this race, even though Daniel Suarez and his teammate Hocevar, who are both in sixth place and seventh place, both of them starting on the front row. Suarez was quickly fading early on in this one, and it looked like that, Suarez, it didn't look like he had the car to really stay up front. But in stage two, we had all those cautions, allowed Daniel Suarez and several others to play a little bit of pit strategy to get back up to the front of the field, lead some laps, and Suarez was able to hold on to that track position. So shout out the number 7 team of Spire for Suarez. Carson Hocevar, the pole sitter, finishes in seventh place. It just didn't look like Hocevar really had the long run pace to truly contend in this one. And that ended up being the case, but still, seventh place finish after Hocevar's first career win at Talladega last weekend. Good day for Hocevar. William Byron in eighth place. Good bounce back. He spun out also in this one as well. Spun out by himself off turn 4 in stage 2. Didn't hit anything. Only went into the grass just a little bit. No damage done. Was able to bounce back from that. Finishes in eighth place. It's been a weird year for William Byron. He's had a solid finish, then a DNF, solid finish, then a 30th place finish, and then he's got another solid finish this weekend. I'm just looking for consistency from William Byron, and I just haven't gotten that quite yet. Maybe this will be the bounce back for old William Byron, finishing in eighth place. Bubba Wallace, ninth place, had to start out back, crashed in practice, was able to work his way forward. He definitely had a car that was capable of being up inside the top 10, top 15 area. Ends up in ninth place. Good day for Bubba. Ryan Blaney ends up in 10th place after not really having that great of a day, it seems like, but was able to grind out a good finish. So good job for Ryan Blaney, that number 12 team of Jonathan Hassler on the pit box for Team Penske. Riley Herbst, another good finish on another mile and a half, finishing it in 11th place. So shout out Riley Herbst. Didn't get many stage points, but was able to work his way forward. I think he was another benefactor of some pit strategy. Eric Jones in 12th place for Legacy Motor Club. Eric Jones actually won stage 1, used a little bit of pit strategy to get up to the front of the field, and was able to get that stage 1 victory. Kind of held on to it from there. So good day for Legacy Motor Club and Eric Jones. Eric Jones quietly, I would say over the last couple of years for Legacy, have been one of the better teams at Texas, I've noticed, at least mid-pack teams. This has definitely been one of their better tracks. I remember in 2023, Eric Jones, still driving a Chevy for Legacy, had no support from Chevrolet as a whole, on the whole, for the team. So they're kind of running on their own, zero support. And Eric Jones was running up inside the top 15, contending for a top 10 spot before he crashed. So I remember that really vividly. I remember it was a very chrome silver paint scheme for Eric, and he had a good day going. So shout out to Eric Jones. Two RFK cars in 13th and 14th, Keselowski and Priest. Both used a little bit of pit strategy to get up towards the front, especially in stage 2 to get some stage points. Keselowski, I would say honestly, I think Brad Keselowski kind of threw away what could have been a good finish. Was just I feel like he played the pit strategy just really, really aggressively today, and I don't think he really needed to. Like, he was running long, like, a lot in this one, and early in the race, I get it. He didn't have the best starting position, need some track position to get up towards the front. But then late in the race, like in stage 2, like, or in stage 3, excuse me, like stage 2, get some stage points. You want to guarantee that. But stage 3, you're running long again. Like, I just don't understand why you did that. Seems a little confusing in my opinion. So still solid day for Brad Keselowski and Priest as well. Didn't have the best car today as well, but still ends up with a 14th and got some stage points. And then Austin Cindric rounds out the top 15 in 15th place for Team Penske. Connor Zilic as well. Two trackhouse drivers, Zilic and Shane Van Gisbergen, both in 16th and 7th place. Connor Zilic qualified in 12th. Not a bad day for Connor Zilic overall. SVG, not bad either. I already mentioned Kyle Busch ends up in 20th. I think Kyle Busch would have had a great finish, like a top 15, maybe a top 10 finish if just he just kept his cool and didn't, get into it with John Hunter Nemechek. Same with Nemechek as well. John Hunter Nemechek was having a great race. It was looking like a top 15 finish for both of them, and then they got together and they end up in 20th and 21st respectively. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in 19th didn't, get the finish he probably wanted, but he got some good stage points. Stage one finished in third, and stage two as well. He was up towards the front a little bit. Didn't get some stage points, but used a little bit of pit strategy to get up towards the front of the field. So shout out to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and that Hayek Motorsports number 4017, and then Ross Chastain is the other guy I want to mention. Finished a lap down. He had a speeding penalty late in this one, in stage three on that last green flag pit stop cycle. He had to come back down pit road to serve a penalty, but Ross Chastain was looking like he was going to have a pretty solid finish for what has been a very underwhelming year for that entire Trackhouse team, specifically the one team. It looked like a top 15 finish maybe on the horizon for Ross Chastain. Maybe he gets lucky, gets a top 10 with a little bit of pit strategy, but unfortunately, had that speeding penalty, ends up in 26. So, you know, I think you'll look at this day and say that, Chastain had a little bit more speed, and that's what I'm gonna look at for him here. It just hasn't been Chastain's year overall, but we're heading to Charlotte soon, another mile and a half where Chastain, he got his win last year, made the playoffs, and come to think of it, last year at Charlotte, Ross Chastain coming into that race hadn't been necessarily doing the best that season. It wasn't terrible, like he was running up inside the top 15 consistently, but for Trackhouse, they're a team that you'd expect to be running up inside the top 10 pretty consistently, and we haven't seen that from that team even last year, and definitely not this year. So I'm definitely gonna maybe be circling Charlotte for Ross Chastain as maybe a really big bounce back for Ross Chastain. Some other guys outside the top 30, or just outside the top 30. Corey Heim ends up in 31st. Corey Heim had a great day today. Part-time driver for the fourth 2311 racing entry, the number 67. Oh boy. So Corey Heim, he had a good day. He was up front a lot. I think he actually led the most laps out of everyone today. And he used a little bit of pit strategy to get up there. He didn't really have anything to lose, and that's what Booty Barker, the crew chief, former crew chief of Bubba Wallace, was really leaning into. They just had nothing to lose, and they got up to the front and were able to lead laps. And even on older tires, Corey Haim was able to hold his own up there and looked like, you know, if he had played the pit strategy right and maybe he had a caution here and there to hold on to that track position, it maybe looked like that Corey Haim could maybe win that race here today at Texas, but ended up not being the case. He had to come down pit road to get fuel and tires. He ended up taking two tires in stage three. That ended up, he may have actually blown a left side tire, and spun out into the outside wall. A big hit for Corey Heim. He was okay though, so glad to see that. But this just showed that Corey Heim is all but ready to race on Sundays. Like if he's gonna do this consistently at mile and a halfs on a consistent basis in the Cup Series, like yeah, Corey Heim's ready. He's ready to be in the Cup Series. He's ready to be in in a seat full time. Where will that be? I don't know. Like, cause I mean, to be fair, Riley Herbst, He's not doing bad. He's not doing too bad. I mean, this is honestly what I think Corey Heim may be doing next year, like in terms of racing on a mile and a half, like finishing just outside the top 10. At other tracks, maybe he'll struggle a little bit more. Maybe at at the super speedways, he'll do good, like Riley. Short tracks, I'm not really sure, but Corey Heim, I think, is a better driver than Riley Herbst. No disrespect to Riley, I think he's perfectly fine, but Corey Heim's just better, and that's just fact of the matter. So, anyways, Corey Heim had a good day. Led a lot of laps, got some experience, had a little bit of fun. I think ends up in 31st, and then besides that, some big names, DNFs here today. Kyle Larson wasn't a DNF today. He ends up outside the top 30. Did get back out on track after he spun out late in this race. 34. He was like 87 laps down. So tough day for Larson. Ty Gibbs in 36th. He got some help from Ryan Preece earlier in this race. Got spun out. Ends up in 36th. Joey Logano, he got caught up in a pit road incident with Cole Custer. It was weird. Cole Custer was waiting for, I believe it was Denny Hamlin, pulling into his pit box. Cole Custer slowed up. Logano just didn't see it. Logano took two tires, was already going out of his pit box, and just completely slammed into the right rear of Cole Custer's car. Completely destroyed the left front fender of Logano's car, destroyed Custer's car. Custer actually got back out on track a little bit later in the race, but Logano was done for the day, and same for Christopher Bell. I already mentioned it, got caught up in Todd Gilliland's spin, just couldn't quite avoid it. Bell looked like he had some good speed today. He was leading when he was caught up in that crash. So tough break for old C Bell. He's just had a lot of bad luck this year, and that's been his season so far. He's steadily gained speed over the course of the year, and it ends up getting caught up in some bad luck and someone else's mess. So that's just the story of Christopher Bell's season. So there's a look at your top finishers, finishing results from today's race. So without further ado, it is time to move on to the race review rating to end the episode. Welcome to the race review rating. It is the weekly segment that we do on this show at every single race recap on this show. This weekend for Texas Motor Speedway, I'm going to go with the 73%. With Texas Motor Speedway, I mentioned it a little bit earlier in tidbits, but Texas is a bit of a weird track now. Drivers will describe it to you, especially in the Cup Series, as a bit of a sketchy and kind of on the edge racetrack with its limited grip and such high speeds. It makes it a very difficult track to both race and pass at, which is ultimately where this lack of a score, in my opinion, goes. At 73 is still not a bad score. It wasn't a bad race today. It just wasn't very good. It was just mid, in my opinion. Not very exciting. Had some crashes, some carnage. This was probably the most cautions that we've seen in an entire race all year, in my opinion, at least. So it had that little bit of entertainment value in terms of crashes uh, on track today. But overall, just Texas with its bumps and very difficult track conditions makes it hard to drive, hard to pass. It's mostly a single groove. Like it's either the middle lane or the top lane, depending on which quarter you're in. 1 and 2 really on the bottom lane. Turns 3 and 4, you can get up on the top lane or the middle lane, but the higher up you go on track, it gets even more treacherous because those bumps just can unsell the car at in just a moment like that. Just a snap of your fingers and you're spinning out. The front tires go away. You lose the rear. You're in the outside wall. So it's a very treacherous racetrack. So it's definitely a hard track to drive in all. And then in this one as well, the pit and fuel strategy caused by those cautions in stage two definitely spiced things up a little bit. You saw drivers trying to stretch it on pit strategy, and unlike in previous years, which we've seen now twice in 2 years in a row, I would say at most tracks is where if they are on older tires, they won't be able to just aero block you as much and hold their position. I point to Ryan Preece and Brad Keselowski as an example in stage two. They decided to gamble, not pit, no tires. They're on older tires compared to everyone else who has tires fresh behind them on like the row behind them with Elliot and Hamlin. And, Priest fades a little bit quicker than Keselowski. Keselowski's able to hold it for the most part, just for one lap, but they aren't really losing too much, but they're not able just to roadblock everything behind them because it's a single groove racetrack and they have limited grip. So that was good to see at least, but you know, it wasn't great racing overall. The overtime finish created a little bit of interesting suspense. The pit and fuel strategy was a nice little twist to it. Uh, and you also saw some decent racing at times, but it wasn't always consistent. So it just makes it for, kind of a middle of the road race. And with Texas being a mile and a half racetrack, you would expect it to be a lot better, but it's just its surface and its single groove racing race lane. It just makes it, not a great race. It just makes it a fine race overall. So I'm going to give it a 73% today. The Wurth 400 from Texas Motor Speedway presented by Liqui Moly. I still don't know what that title sponsor is at all. But 73% is the score I'm giving today. So let me know down in the comments, what would you give the Wurth 400 from Texas Motor Speedway in terms of a score? Would you give it a higher score? Would you give it a lower score? Let me know down in the comment section below. But that will do it for this episode, everyone. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. If you liked what I'm doing right here on this show, I got 110 other episodes that you can go ahead and listen to if you are interested. Most recently, I posted an episode about a week ago, I believe, as well. Maybe not a week ago. It was last Wednesday. Last Wednesday, I posted a news episode catching you up on everything. I had some power rankings in that one. You can expect another episode like that coming up very, very soon for the next one. Power rankings, news, all yet to come in the next episode of Talking NASCAR. And if you want to go see some other content that I've been posting, go check out Talking Sports with Miles and Andrew, the other show I co-host with. Talk about sports, not just NASCAR, but talk about baseball, football, basketball, and so much more. College sports as well. The NFL draft just happened last weekend, so we're going to be coming out with a draft recap episode very, very soon, so stay tuned for more on that. So if you want to go check out both shows, I will have links to both their Spotify pages and their YouTube channels down in the description below, so go check those out if you haven't already. So thank you so much for listening. I'm Andrew Volkman. I still don't know how to do these outros, but maybe I'll figure it out one day. Thank you all for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.